22 years old, and I live in a small town in Kansas. It's a safe town. I've lived here for almost 14 years. I work at a Mexican restaurant, and I've been doing that for 4 years. It's not a bad job. I go to the gym every day with my friend Colton. He's 19. He's your typical redneck kind of guy, but he's chill and a good friend. This happened last summer. Colton had been dating a cheerleader from high school named Addie. She was 17. They met on a dating app and dated for about 4 months. Their relationship was toxic, to say the least. They fought over small things constantly. She didn't even like him going to the gym with me. She wanted him with her all the time. Eventually, Colton found out she had cheated on him with multiple guys. That was the final straw. He broke up with her. She didn't take it well. One Tuesday night, Colton and I were at the gym like usual. We normally go around 7 p.m. because he gets off work at 6. We were drinking our pre-workout and starting our session when the gym door opened and a girl walked in. She was wearing a red hoodie and blue leggings. Right away, something was off. She just stood there for a second staring at us instead of looking around the gym, moving, or looking at her phone. Then she walked towards the women's locker room, but kept looking back at us as she walked. Colton didn't really think much of it, but I did. A few minutes later, we heard noises coming from the women's locker room. It sounded like crying mixed with whispering. It was loud enough that we could hear it through our headphones. It wasn't normal crying. It sounded unstable, like someone talking to themselves while breaking down. We tried to ignore it and kept working out. About 10 minutes later, she came out of the locker room wearing the exact same clothes. That's when it got stranger, because if you go into the locker room, you're usually changing to work out, but she didn't. She just walked out and started moving around the gym without actually using any equipment. She kept drifting closer to us, like too close, hovering near whatever machine we were on, watching us, not even really working out. I told Colton I was getting uncomfortable. We moved to another machine. A few minutes later, she was gone, but we didn't see her leave. We just realized she wasn't there anymore. We finished our workout around 8:40 p.m. and went outside to talk for a bit. I noticed a car sitting in the parking lot with its lights on. That felt weird because only 4 other people were there, and they had come together in one truck. But we brushed it off. About 10 minutes after I got home, Colton texted me asking if I remembered that girl from the gym. I said yeah. He asked what if it was Addie. That idea made my stomach drop. He said she had been acting crazy since the breakup and really wanted him back. I told him there was no way. It was probably just some random girl. Eventually, we both convinced ourselves it wasn't her and went to bed. Around 11:30 p.m., I heard knocking on my brother's window. I went to look outside, but didn't see anyone. A few minutes later, there was knocking on my window. Again, no one was there. Then I heard aggressive knocking at the front door. The doorknob started shaking violently. Not someone checking if it was unlocked, someone trying to get in. Then I heard a girl laughing. Not normal, playful laughter, it was hysterical. Every few seconds, she would start laughing again like she was enjoying herself. I started feeling sick. Then my phone buzzed. A random number texted me saying to leave Colton alone. It said I convinced him to break up with her, and that now I would pay the consequences. I knew immediately it was Addie. Another text came in. It was a picture of a knife in her hand. That's when it became real. She wasn't just angry. She was outside my house with a weapon. I texted my dad, who was thankfully still awake. He called the police immediately. The laughter stopped after a few minutes, but I was too scared to move and check. When the cops arrived, they found her sitting in the grass near the house like she had been waiting. They arrested her on the spot. She admitted everything to the officers. They asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. I called Colton and told him what happened. He was just glad I was okay. The only thing I still don't understand is how she got my address. I never gave it to her. Colton swears he didn't either. That part still bothers me, because if she found it once, she could have found it any time. I'm just glad the police got there when they did. I'm 25, and I had been going to the same LA Fitness in my town for a few years. I usually went after work around 6 in the evening. After a while, you start recognizing the regulars, even if you never talk to them. About 6 months ago, I started noticing a guy I hadn't seen before. The first time I really noticed him was during one of my leg days. I was doing squats, and when I finished a set, I looked up at the mirror in front of me and saw him sitting on a chest press machine behind me. He wasn't using it. He was just sitting there leaning forward with his elbows on his knees looking straight ahead. But when I started another set and looked up again, he was still sitting in the same position, now staring in my direction. When our eyes met, he quickly looked away. The next time I saw him was a couple days later. I was doing shoulder presses and noticed him sitting on a lat pull-down machine across the room. Again, he wasn't using it. The weight stack wasn't moving, and he had been sitting there the entire time I was working out. Every time I glanced over, I caught him looking at me before he turned his head away. After that, I started noticing him almost every time I went to the gym. The weirdest part was that I never actually saw him work out. He would just sit on machines or benches but never move the weights. One night, I was doing squats again when I noticed him behind me holding his phone up in front of his chest. It was angled directly toward me. For a second, it looked like he was recording. The moment I turned around and stared at him, he lowered the phone and looked away. That was when I started feeling genuinely uncomfortable. Over the next week, I kept seeing him. Sometimes he'd be sitting near the dumbbells, sometimes on a machine across the room, but no matter where I was in the gym, he always seemed to have a clear view of me. One night, I went to refill my water bottle, and when I turned the corner toward the fountain, he was suddenly standing there only a few feet away. It startled me because I had never seen him that close before. He looked down the moment he realized I noticed him, and he quietly walked past me without saying anything. After that, I decided to change my routine. Instead of going around 6 like I usually did, I started going around 9 at night. The gym is a lot quieter then, and I figured if he had a normal schedule, he probably wouldn't be there. The first night I tried it, I walked in and scanned the room right away. He wasn't there. The same thing happened the next few nights. I thought maybe I had solved the problem. Then one weekend, my friends and I went out to a bar downtown. It was crowded and loud like most places on a Saturday night. And there he was. I turned around while we were standing near the back of the room and saw the guy sitting alone at a small table near the wall. It took me a second to realize it was the same guy from the gym. He was wearing a dark jacket and a baseball hat pulled low over his face. When I noticed him, he was staring directly at me. The second he realized I had seen him, he looked down at his drink. Over the next 20 minutes, I caught him looking at me several more times. Each time he'd quickly look away. Eventually, I leaned toward my friends and said I wanted to go somewhere else. We left and walked a few blocks to another bar. I didn't see him again that night, but the whole thing stayed in my mind. The scariest moment happened 2 weeks later. There's a nature preserve near my house with a long trail I sometimes run during the day. It was a cloudy afternoon when I started my run on the dirt path that leads deeper into the preserve. About 10 minutes in, I noticed someone jogging behind me. At first, it didn't seem unusual, but after a minute, I realized the distance between us wasn't changing at all. He stayed the exact same distance behind me the entire time. I slightly increased my pace, and within seconds, I heard his footsteps speed up too. I sped up again, and he did the same thing. When I glanced back briefly, I saw a man wearing a hat with his head down jogging behind me. His build looked exactly like the guy from the gym. That's when the adrenaline kicked in. I knew there was a small dirt exit path up to a nearby street if you took a sharp left ahead. I started running faster and faster until I was almost sprinting. His footsteps got louder behind me. When I turned onto the narrow dirt path leading up to the street, I heard him break into a full sprint too. I ran as fast as I possibly could. When I reached the street, I started screaming for help. A man who had been standing in his driveway across the road immediately looked over. The second the guy behind me saw someone else, he stopped at the edge of the trail. I turned and saw him hesitate for a moment before turning around and running back into the woods. The man from the driveway came over to check on me while I tried to catch my breath. By the time I looked back toward the trail, the guy was completely gone. I never saw him at the gym again after that day. A few weeks later, I canceled my membership and joined a gym across town. This experience definitely made me a whole lot more paranoid in public settings, as far as paying attention to who's watching me.